John Holder, lighting designer and head of lighting design, professor of professional practice at Rutgers University. I would say, speaking from my perspective as an educator, um, the same, there's a certain level of liabilities by kind of going down this route or allowing this kind of practice to be accepted in a new building, a high school auditorium, college, university theater, whatever, new performing arts center. If the spec isn't followed, then ultimately that means that they've gone for a cheaper, less lower quality product, and therefore the standards of the facility have just been, without any consent, have been lowered. And when students are trying to prepare themselves for further study in the lighting industry, perhaps moving on from high school to a professional training program or a conservatory training program like the one that I run. It's important that they they begin to develop an understanding of the tools the essential tools that we use in our business. And if they become, I think what I've encountered with especially young students who don't have a lot of formal training and are coming from a variety of different backgrounds when it comes to high school is they come to school with bad habits. I don't want to say that in a derogatory way because it's not meant to be, but they kind of sometimes are set in their ways. And if they're learning, they're working with tools that are deficient or are not helping them train their eye in a way that they should be trained, then it just becomes a setback and a hurdle that they're going to have to work around when they actually begin to learn the craft in a formal way. I would just say that knockoff products are typically, they're also just, I think it's ethically questionable to allow that to happen in a institution of learning, higher or otherwise, because you're essentially these products, these knockoffs, these companies are stealing other people's intellectual property, building equipment that is patented or otherwise protected, and profiting off of somebody else's research and development. And if I don't think that's something that institutions of learning should be embracing when they're trying to raise a generation who hopefully understand ethics and respect for people's work and intellectual property. Then there's the question of just the quality. I mean, I talked about it a little bit just a moment ago, but also my experience with these products is, in addition to the dimming issues and the binning issues, meaning the color consistency, they usually don't deliver the enough of the visible spectrum to really render things as intended. And this can be a problem in the age that we're living in now. I'm not talking about challenges in making the set look good. There's that, but what about human skin? I mean, we are a country and a society that embraces diversity. You may think it's strange that I'm talking about LED fixtures and diversity, but I'm training my students to be very conscious about the way they acknowledge everybody who's performing on stage, and that means rendering people's skin in a way that makes them feel like they're performing in the same scene. So if a black person and a white person are performing in the same scene, the light should feature and finesse and massage and make both people's skin tones look equally supple and healthy and real and palpable. If it doesn't, and some of these cheap knockoffs don't have that capability, I think you're running into an equity issue, whether intended or not. So that's another thing to consider. Color rendering is super important. And also optics. If you're projecting patterns or whatever on walls, on other surfaces, typically the knockoffs, the lens systems, that's where they really cut corners. And the quality of the light and the quality of a projected image. For example, with cheap fixtures, if you put a metal pattern in the temple, you put a metal pattern in the slot by the gate, the fixture gate, and mix a color with, let's say, 3 or 4 emitters, and then run the focus on that pattern, you're going to see all the colors all broken up in kind of a rainbow or stained glass array, which is not necessarily what the lighting designer wants to deliver on stage, but you're basically you have no choice. There is no workaround because the fixture is by nature deficient. So, ultimately you get what you pay for. That rule applies and it always will. So if you buy cheap stuff, you're going to deliver cheap results. I always wanted to be a lighting designer. I think when I was when junior high school, maybe 12 or 13 years old, I thought it was an unattainable goal. I never thought any of the things that happened in my life and my career would transpire, but they did. And I feel very fortunate. I've worked in film and television and opera and architecture and all kinds. I've done musicals and plays and, worked all over the world. I'm incredibly grateful and always shocked that that things turned out the way they did. I mean, it's been a wonderful ride. I'm still going. I just have to mention that the reason I teach is because I feel like I'm the product of some great mentors who I mentioned, and I feel like it's so important to raise up the next generation and, in my own way, give people an opportunity to follow their dreams. And my students at Rutgers now, they're all beginning to graduate because I just started teaching about 6 years ago, and they're all doing so well. It really warms my heart to see how well they're doing and how happy they are. And, that's what it's all about for me now.